Hi you guys, my name is Derrick Rashid and welcome to my channel. Welcome back to another episode of 90 Day Fiance, Happily Ever After, ? And on this episode, we pick up with Larissa going to confront Eric about the entire situation with Natalie. Larissa simply just asked, like, hey, I want to talk to you about this entire situation. And Eric flies completely off the handle. You're bringing up the dead and da-da-da-da-da, blah, 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 blah. All this stuff, like 0 to like 150,000, like right off the bat. So this is not going to be good. Larissa is just all about like, I basically don't understand how you could do this, how you could talk about me to people I don't know, how you can talk about like intimate things with other people, and how dare you bash me, and like if you just hate me, basically just say it. And Eric's like, girl, I don't know who you think you are, but you in my house. So Larissa lives for this drama. There's a brief moment where Eric approaches her and she's like, what? So you're gonna call the cops? And she has this smirk on her face. And I'm like, girl, you can live for drama all you want to, but if he does call the cops, you could like get deported. So you might want to chill with that just a little bit. So the conversation basically ends with Eric saying something very reminiscent of like, you must think you're Dolly Parton walking around here with this pink robe. Okay. Larissa calls, guess who? Carmen, and goes to meet her and talks about the entire situation. And Carmen's basically like, girl, like I told you so. You already knew this was going to happen. I don't know why you went, but you chose to do so anyway. And her phone rings. Larissa calls the number back and it's, what's his name? David. David is Eric's roommate, and then they start going back and forth, and David's like, I don't understand like why you would take the phone, and Larissa's like, it's my phone, I let him borrow it, and I said if I need this phone back, I'll get it back from you. David's like, yeah, but he also had this phone while you guys were broken up, so he has probable cause to call the police. And Larissa's like, dude, get off my line, y'all be happy, do whatever, bye. Then the door knocks. Why do I keep saying the door knocks? I don't know where she came from, but the door knocks. Someone's at the door and Larissa's freaking out thinking that it might be the cops. So that's basically where we end off with the entire Larissa segment, Carmen answering the door. So let's head over to Moldova with Libby and Andre. We pick back up with these two the morning after the dinner with the entire fight, let's call it a fight, between Andre, Libby, everyone at the dinner table, all the families just having a moment. And Andre takes out leftovers to have for breakfast, and he has this conversation with Libby, and he starts it off like, are you okay from last night? Like, are you hungover? And she's like, bro, like, I had one glass of wine. If anyone was drunk, it was you. But apparently this one glass of wine leads Andre to believe that this is the reason for Libby to say stupid things. So the only stupid thing that could definitely be brought up would be the entire thing about not wanting to have a wedding and bringing up the fact that Andre is not working, and how she feels about that. And during this conversation, we kind of get the idea that this may be the first time that they're actually having this conversation, that this was the setup that they agreed upon, and Libby somehow changed her mind and didn't relay that information to Andre until this entire event happened with her family, which is kind of wrong. Like, it's not kind of wrong, it is wrong. I don't side with Andre a lot, but I'm gonna agree with him in this moment. Libby needs to set boundaries across the board. Like, she needs to have this conversation with her family, she needs to have this conversation with her husband, because she's going to continue to just be in the middle between the two and have to take it from both ends, which actually happens when we go to dinner with everyone again plus Andre's friends. Chuck and Charlie proceed to ask questions. Like, they found out that one of the guys at the table also lived in Ireland with Andre, and they're like, oh, so why was he in Ireland? And Andre gets mad again about the entire situation. Andre is like, Libby, say something. Charlie's like, Libby, say something. And she's like, bro, I'm both of y'all, between the two of y'all, I'm not doing this. I will literally get up. And they're just going at it. And basically how this entire thing ends, and this is the cliffhanger of the episode, Charlie and Andre get up and they're seemingly about to fight. They're in each other's faces. So this is probably gonna be part of the trailer that we saw at the beginning of the season. This is gonna be that moment between the two of them. So we head over to Utah with Kalani and Asuelu, who are at a Samoan shop to get gifts for Asuelu's family in Washington. Asuelu starts picking up like all these items, and the total is like racking up. Like if you're doing the math just off of what Kalani is saying, like he's easily over $200, and he just keeps grabbing things and grabbing things and grabbing things. And he's also like, okay, so we're gonna bring the gifts and we're also gonna give the money. And Kalani's like, well, how much money are you thinking if we're doing both? And he's like, well, my mom wants $1,000, so I'm thinking $1,000. And Kalani's like, all right, that's cool and all, but where's this $1,000 gonna come from? And he's like, don't worry about it, God will handle it. And Kalani says like, all right, so let's give your mom $1,000, let's give my dad $1,000, and let's just hope that God like replenishes our bank account. So I'm thinking like maybe 50, and Asuelu's like, 50? I can give you $50. And she's like, all right, well, give me $50. He ain't got $50 to give. We end up ringing up everything and we're just shy of $200. It seems as though it's gonna be the gifts plus $100. And I just, like, if you're gonna spend $200 on gifts, just give them $300, because at the end of the day, like, these gifts are very much touristy type gifts. T-shirts, sarongs. Like, I can understand the food if that is something that's native to the island, sure. So they pack up and they head to the airport. They land, all this fun stuff. The babies are exhausted. Kennedy is crying his little eyes out. They've been traveling for 12 hours, and apparently they're supposed to be going directly to Asuelu's mother's house. And Kalani's like, I don't really think that's a good idea. Like, we've had a long day. The babies are acting a fool back here, so maybe we should just go home, go to sleep. Like, I know you're gonna be like upset about this entire thing, but it just like, it doesn't really make sense. Asuelu gets into his childish ways, and I think he calls her stupid or dumb or something, like something really under his breath. And I'm just like, okay, it's nighttime, you have children, they're exhausted, you yourself admit that you're tired. So most people would look at their itinerary, see when they're expected to land, and make their plans off of that. If you're traveling for 12 hours, I doubt anyone would want to do anything right after they leave the airport. We head back over to Brazil, where Colt, Debbie, and Jess are going back to Jess's family's house just to say goodbye, because they're going to head to another part of the country to meet up with Jess's friends. So, in customary tradition, everyone gets a gift to say, oh, thank you for coming. During this entire goodbye session, Colt pulls Jess's dad aside, and he basically asks, via translator, if he can have Jess's hand in marriage. And her dad agrees. We get back in the car, we're headed off to our next destination, and Debbie's like, so what were you guys talking about, you and Jess's dad? And he's like, oh, we were just talking about sports and stuff, you know, guy stuff. Cut to Debbie's interview, and she's like, I'm basically gonna sabotage this relationship. So we get to our next destination, our hotel. Colt has purchased 2 rooms this time. We have 2 reservations, so we won't have any awkward moments. And Debbie's in her room. She calls Vanessa, who's watching the cats, and she's like chit-chatting away. So Colt and Jess knock on the door. Debbie ends the call with Vanessa, opens the door, and she's like, oh yeah, I just got off the phone with Vanessa. She says the cats are good. Look at this video. Like, she's just giving me updates and whatnot, and this is all news to Jess. So Jess is like, you got a phone with who? Okay, all right. So then there's a blow up about that, and Debbie is like, little girl, like, you got issues. Like, if you don't trust him, there's jealousy or whatever, like, this ain't gonna work. And Colt joins in on this entire situation. Mind you, he didn't even tell the truth when it came to Vanessa. He told Jess that he wasn't talking to her anymore. So that's honestly why Jess is probably mad. 1, you lied. 2, you know I don't like this girl. 3, now she's watching your cats. I don't have a cat. I don't know how long this trip is, but everyone always talks about how cats are self-sufficient. And I feel as though a household such as Colt and Debbie's, where they are very much cat people, that they have like those, what are they called, litter boxes that does the cleaning and everything, and automatic food dispensers. And I would think that they would have those types of things. Cut to an interview, production with Debbie, and they're like, did you know that Jess had an issue with Vanessa? And this lady does this face here. And this bothers me so much. 1, because like, this wasn't even your trip to come on. 1, you invited yourself. 2, you can be upset about anything you want to do, but to sit here and try to like purposefully cause issues within a relationship. Colt needs to put his mom in his place. Your mom shouldn't be the third person in your relationship. Back over in Nigeria, we have Michael and Angela, who are at some sort of like animal park situation, and it seems as though the entire reason for this trip is for Angela to finally tell Michael the truth about her entire reproductive situation. They sit down and she starts to tell him like, hey, so I went to the gyno, and that egg that the doctor here in Nigeria saw, my doctor didn't see that, and I just want to make sure that I'm like able to tote a baby for you. Well, since Michael didn't know anything about this, he's a little bit confused on the entire situation. He only knows that she has 1 egg left. And Angela's like, I was bleeding and like I am postmenopausal or on the tail end of menopause, so that shouldn't be a thing that's happening. Oh girl knew she wasn't gonna be able to have a baby of her own. So why did she not tell this to Michael way earlier, before any of this came about? So they call the doctor, and the doctor runs off everything about her test results, and ultimately what it leads to is she doesn't have cancer. She is seemingly in really good health, and Michael's like, all right, so we can have a baby. And the doctor's like, well, that's something that you two have to decide. However, please understand that there's going to be a ton of risks. Angela kind of asked Michael flat out, like, if I can't have a baby, does that mean that you don't want to marry me? And Michael was like, I can't answer that now. Yeah, you can, but you don't want to. So these people are like not being 100% truthful with themselves, with each other, which is why this entire thing will not work out. So we meet up with Paul and his mother. It turns out that Paul invited his mother to the pet store to only purchase things for him. Again, we're just going to go back to what I said in my last video, where Paul Paul brought back 2 additional mouths into his household, where he can't even support the actual people in his household. And Paul's mom is definitely like right on board. She's like, if you can't even feed your dogs, how are you going to be able to provide for your family? And she basically calls him a deadbeat to his face, like kind of harsh, but kind of something that he definitely needed to hear. Like, Paul has a record. Paul has a few mug shots out there, and he is obviously having difficulties finding a job. It could definitely be him not being able to get the job that he would like. There are places out there who will hire felons and whatnot. That's all we get on Paul. We don't get Carini, we don't get Pieri. It's just this little moment at the pet shop with Paul and his mom. We end the episode with Tanya and Sinjin, who are basically gonna go to a hotel from Connecticut, I believe they live in, to New York, so that they're closer to JFK, so that they can fly out and head to South Africa. During this trip, they get in an argument because Sinjin's like, he's excited for the warm weather, he's excited to be around family, he's excited for the drinking, and Tanya's like, that's not what we're here for drinking. Like, you kind of go hard on the drinking. And he's like, I don't want you to be like stressed on this entire trip. I just want you to chill and like don't worry so much about my actions and whatnot. Next morning, they go to the airport, they fly over, they land in Cape Town, and they're greeted by Sinjin's mom and sister. Sinjin's just really happy about being home, and he just has all this excitement, and Tanya very awkwardly just stands there with this like weird look on her face, and she's like, pace yourself. Sinjin and his mom and sister end up going to the store, I'm assuming this is like the next day or whatever, to like get some snacks, get some food or whatever. And they have a conversation with him, and Sinjin is pretty candid with them. Sinjin's mom and sister also want to have a conversation with Tanya to see how she's feeling on the entire situation. They could definitely be overstepping boundaries. And that's all that we get on them. So I guess next episode we're going to dive deeper into them, just like we're going to do with Paul and Carini. And that's going to be the end of the episode, guys. Please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow me on socials. I do have Twitter and I have Instagram. My handles for both are at Derrick_Rashid, just like it is with this channel, only the channel does not have the underscore. So until next time, guys, bye.